Hello and welcome to the I3P Town Hall meeting. I'm Eldora Valentine, I3P Communications Lead for the program. Today we want to bring awareness to the I3P program. With me today we have our program manager, Gary Cox. And from left to right of Gary we have Communication Services Service Executive, Tom Miglin. Neil Rogers is representing the Enterprise Application Services area. We have John Sprague with End User Services, and we have Sarab Bavasia with Enterprise Service Desk, and then we have Jackie Gill representing our web services. We also have several of our NASA partners in the audience, so they will be available to participate in today's discussion as well. We'll begin by having Gary Cox give us a brief overview and status of the program. Then we'll take questions, starting with our Wave 1 centers. Each center will be allowed to ask 2 questions, and then we'll move on to the next center, and so on, so that way every center has an opportunity to ask questions, and then we'll repeat the order. So with that, I'll turn it over to Gary Cox.
Thank you, Eldora, and good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for showing up today. Certainly a great crowd here at headquarters. I appreciate you coming. As we were getting ready to go on air, I heard the announcement about silencing your BlackBerry so as not to cause any interference, and I thought, you know, if we had done this Wednesday, you wouldn't have had to do that, right? Quite an ordeal there, but it brings to mind just how important IT's become to us, just something as simple as email, and how many things have to go right to bring that you know, to the masses. And it's a responsibility we certainly take very seriously with this program, and certainly endeavor to do our best to bring quality services to NASA. So we get into the slides. I'll spend a few minutes talking about the IT Infrastructure Integration Program, and then open it up for questions. Next slide. So what is I3P? Well, in a nutshell, it's an integrated set of services that the NASA mission and mission support organizations need to do their jobs, whether it's, you know, mission related or, you know, business admin, whatever. It's the end user services, as we call them, the desktops, laptops, cell phones, PDAs, you know, multifunction devices, you know, printers, copiers, etc., all the way through the network. Voice, video, data communications, both mission and corporate. It's the web services. Our NASA portal is recognized as one of the best in the world, certainly in all of government. And you know, we'd like to keep leveraging that to bring the mission of NASA to the masses. And then the enterprise applications that we rely on every day for finance, procurement, logistics, you know, goes on and on, travel, etc. So we're trying to bring those together to you folks in an integrated way and service that through an enterprise service desk that provides a high level of you know, first call resolution, you know, tier 0 and tier 1 support, and then pass that on to the vendors who we expect to respond promptly to any problems. This is about $300 million a year worth of services, so certainly you know, it gets everybody's attention, not only in our office, but, you know, at the administrator's level and out at all of the centers. And as I said, we take it very seriously. Next slide. So some of the major components of I3P, I mean, there's been various projects that we've run, like upgrading the wide area network and implementing smart cards and working on single sign-on and things like that. But you know, the 4 largest components of this are the ACES contract, the East contract, NICS, and West. ACES is the Agency Consolidated End User Services contract. That's been awarded to Hewlett-Packard Enterprise Services. I'm glad that the senior team from HP is here today, and they'll be available after the event for folks to meet. Certainly, you know, that's over $1 billion worth of potential business over 10 years for them. They're taking this very seriously. Robert Pearson is the program manager for HP, and that set of services being managed out of the NASA Shared Services Center right now, currently by Jim Walker at the NSSC. East is the Enterprise Application Services and Technologies contract that's been awarded to SAIC. Sue Myers from SAIC is here with us today. She's the contractor PM, and of course, down at the NSSC, Neil Rogers and Amy Stapleton and folks are supporting that. Again, those are all of the applications that were brought up as IEMP, and now we call that the NEAC, the NASA Enterprise Application Competency Center down there at Marshall. For NICS, the NASA Integrated Communication Services contract, SAIC got that award. That's being managed by Dan Harris of SAIC, and we kind of have a mixed service office there. Marshall is the main program office or service office there, but it's supported by Goddard for the mission wide area network, and then Ames provides technology support to that service office. For West, I had a better story last week. This week the story is we had to cancel that procurement. Unfortunately, some requirements have changed, and we had some issues there after several years of work on that. But we've got plans in place to rapidly recover. Certainly, we're going to make sure that those services under the NASA portal are sustained, and while we develop the new procurement strategy. So, that will take a few months probably, and you'll be hearing more about West in the future. The Enterprise Service Desk down at the NSSC, CSC is supporting the NSSC, and they've been hard at work standing up not only the service desk, but an enterprise service request system that folks would be able to access via web, phone, and any other means that are reasonably available. Our intent there is to grow and keep improving on a enterprise service desk that will serve NASA well into the future, and not walk out the door every 5 to 10 years as contractors change. So we're hoping that it's a great experience when we stand it up, and we want it to get better and better every year. And then the Consolidated Business Office at the NSSC, rather than have every center stand up duplicate functions of contracting officers and resource analysts and whatnot, we've consolidated those functions down at the NSSC. So they'll be doing contract administration, putting funding on the contract, working with the centers on bills, monitoring contract performance, or doing some of the reporting. Obviously, the technical folks will be out at the centers working with the contractors on the technical aspects, but the business piece of it will be handled by the NSSC. Next slide. So why are we doing I3P? Well, there's probably lots of reasons besides the four I have here, but the four biggest ones, 3 or 4 years ago, NASA and OMB conducted some studies on how much agencies were spending on IT and IT infrastructure. Certainly, at that time, NASA was reporting about $2.2 billion in IT spend, and about $700 to $800 million of that was in IT infrastructure. So, represents a target opportunity for us to go out and do some rearrangement of requirements, take advantage of market conditions and competition in order to reduce our cost, which in these austere times I think everybody would agree is welcome. Also at that time, the Constellation program was gearing up and spreading work packages across the agency. And on a program of that magnitude with the work spread out, you needed an integrated infrastructure that would support a program spread out across the agency in terms of folks being able to get the information, share the information, and integrate, et cetera. So the intent of I3P is to facilitate that, even though we've moved on from Constellation to SLS and other endeavors, certainly no less important today than it was 3 years ago. From a security perspective, up until recently, NASA was considered a material weakness, reported that way, to Congress, et cetera. We got a lot of attention for that. We still get a lot of attention for it. And we've tried to structure the program and these contracts to help us put together a solid IT infrastructure and processes to protect the agency's information. And finally, and perhaps this should be the first bullet, but we want to enhance the customer experience. I'm as frustrated as anyone when you come in the morning and it takes you 20 minutes to fire up the computer and get your email downloaded, and that's probably if you're lucky. And so, that's, it takes an integrated approach because it's not just the desktop and it's not just the client and it's not just the network. It's, the combination of all of the components that lead to, these experiences like the calendar problems that a lot of people are experiencing. And so over the course of, the next year or 10 years or however long it takes, we're going to improve that customer experience. Next slide. So, there's probably not enough time and enough slides to fully describe what it means to you, so I'll just try to touch on some of the big things. Relative to ACES, we've been in a mode of suspension of the refreshes for the hardware for quite some time as Odin was ending and we knew the new contract was coming. And so at the very least, desktop refreshes are going to resume. Now, I'm sure the question that the first question that would probably be asked, unless I head it off, is when is that going to happen and how rapid is the deployment going to be? And all I can say at this time is NASA and HP are working together to try to put together a solid schedule, and not only for when we're going to start doing the refreshes, but how swiftly they'll be undertaken. And as soon as that information is available, we're going to get that out to the centers and get it out to folks. But you should probably at least plan on when Odin ends and HP starts providing service at your center, it's going to be on your existing Odin equipment. Relative to NICs, about half of the centers use Odin for their network services. It's part of the seat at several centers. And terminology that we had to learn 10 to 12 years ago, like NADs and LAN A's and LAN B's and things like that to order services is going away. We're going to a much simpler set of services, like I need a network drop, and you'll be getting that. So I think that's actually going to be quite an improvement, but it's going to be an adjustment for some of the centers that have been operating differently for a while. For West, at some point we're going to pull together a new contract. The biggest thing we need to do there is put a customer-friendly content management system in place. The reason a lot of folks haven't migrated their web public web instances to the portal is because of the content management system we currently have there. And so once we get a new contract in place and a new CMS and services that folks want, we certainly expect to get a lot of the public web content out of the center environment and get it into an enterprise managed environment that it will improve its exposure, the exposure of the information to the public, and as well as security. For ESD, there's going to be one number to call. Now, as we go through this transition, most centers are probably going to do things a little bit differently. So I can't speak for any one particular center, but most likely here at headquarters, we call help HELP, and we get the call tree. So for IT, we'll hit the I think it's a 1, and then it'll go through. But it's going to get routed to the enterprise service desk at the shared services center, and they're going to do some triage on your call. Try to give you first call resolution if possible. If not, they'll pass it down the line to the appropriate vendor to fix your problem. And then with the Consolidated Business Office, I think the biggest thing the user community will see is just standard funding processes and reports on the usage and charges for IT. So we're trying to make that much simpler, and we've been working some things with OMB and the Hill and the Working Capital Fund, that we'll cross our fingers and hope go through that will significantly reduce the level of effort required there. So we'll go to the next slide. So some of the milestones, the Consolidated Business Office actually started up October 1st, and actually someone from the NSSC drove up to the NEAC in Huntsville and picked up the boxes full of the contract files and hauled them back down to the NSSC. So that transition of the East contract to the Consolidated Business Office has happened, and they'll be gearing up to start with the ACES contract in November. We'll be standing up the initial operating capability for the Enterprise Service Desk on November 1st in support of ACES and the base services under that. Certainly appreciate all of the folks that have participated in the testing of the Enterprise Service Desk and the service request system thus far, and there's still some critical milestones we have to get through in operational readiness reviews, but we expect everything to be at least at a sufficient level of operating capability on November 1st. For ACES, Wave 1, we're doing this in 3 waves just because there's 45,000 users there and multiple centers, and trying to do it all at once would just be too much. But Wave 1 is Dryden, Goddard, headquarters in Kennedy. They're going to start, HP is going to start services November 1st. That's when the Odin delivery order ends there. Then we're going to be picking up under the NICS contract, the local area networks at Ames and headquarters on December 1st. For the Wave 2 of ACES, which is Glenn, Stennis, the NSSC, and Marshall, January 1st, we're going to start service there. And then as well, they have their local area networks will be coming in, transitioning to NICS at that time. And then with Wave 3, Ames, Langley, and JSC, they'll end their Odin service on March 1st, and HP will pick up services there. And as well, NICS will pick up the local area networks for Langley and JSC at that time. So those are the milestones, and just some tidbits about the program. And I'd like to spend the rest of the time on any questions that folks may have.
Okay. Thanks, Gary. Gary's slides will be available online, so if you miss some of those, we will post those. We were scheduled to go to the Wave 1 centers first, but some of them are having some technical difficulties. So we're going to go ahead, and I believe we have a question coming in from Marshall. So go ahead, Marshall. Marshall, can you hear us? Okay. Okay. Do we have someone at headquarters who would like to ask a question then? Well, I'll tell you what, why don't we go ahead and open it up with the first question. Some of these were sent in from the centers. One of the questions that came in was, who will pay for directly ordered multifunctional device items? So, Gary, if you want to answer that, or
the multifunction devices falls under the the end user services realm and the ACES contract. So I'll let John Sprague answer that one.
Thanks, Gary. If the camera can hit it, there's an MFD right here in the room, multifunctional device. And the question about it is, who pays for that? The organization pays for it. And they're positioned where you want in your organization. I know that's just a slight difference from how it was done before. But you know, we're going from the Xerox contract to the new contract on ACES. And the MFDs will be wherever you want them to be. We did a little bit of preliminary research at the centers and have an idea of where they need to be, you know, better placement, things like that. And that's going to be happening very soon at your center.
Okay, thanks. We have Johnson Space Center online with the question. Go ahead, Johnson.
Yes, I'm asking this on behalf of one of our customers. Will there be any changes to user mailbox size under ACES? Will there still be enhanced mailboxes like 1 gigabyte, same number, or more?
Yeah, again, that falls under end user services. So, John, you're probably going to be the man of the hour.
So there is going to be no change on the mailboxes at this time. One of the things that we asked for in the contract was to give us an innovative solution and something that we'll be looking at in the future because I get that request quite often, actually probably about once a month from somebody. You know, there's always the emergency, you're TDY somewhere, you're out, maybe not even at a center, and you can call in and get your box bumped up for a little bit if needed. But the levels are not going to change. You're going to either have 400 megabytes as a standard or the one gig. So it's not going to change anytime soon, but we are looking at it and hope to have something probably in the next couple of years where we'll change the Nomad system to be able to accommodate that.
Yeah, and that's a case where HP is basically coming in and picking up the NASA infrastructure for the email, and we recognize you know, there's a lot of work needed there, and it's probably be one of the first things that we'll focus on is improving that service.
Thank you. Another question. The ACES seats will come with Windows 7. How will smart card PIN resets be supported?
So PIN resets are going to be very similar to the way they're done now. You know, you can call in and have it done. You know, just call the help desk and have a reset done. So there's going to be really no change in the way it's done.
Okay.
So I think what she was referring to then is when we roll out Windows 7, when we start the refresh, if there's, I'm assuming that they'll be calling the ESD with a reset request, and ideally the ESD would be doing that password reset, right, Saurabh?
So if there's a knowledge article that's present that allows for the Tier 1 tech to triage that issue, that is correct. At Tier 1, it would be triaged at that point. However, if there's not a knowledge article, it would be passed forward.
Okay, thanks. We have a couple of questions coming in from Goddard. Go ahead, Goddard. So we're still having some technical difficulties. Here's another question that came in. What are East's future plans for mobile applications? Neil?
So Neil, can you?
Yeah, there's a lot of excitement in the agency about mobile applications and what they provide in terms of productivity, leveraging these devices. So in the Enterprise Application Service Office over the last year or so, you're probably familiar with some of the applications we've developed to kind of explore this area, this capability. WebTads, mobile, NASA contacts, those are available today. What we're doing, though, is we've heard from a lot of other people around the agency that there are apps that they want to develop, but they're looking for a kind of a one-stop shop to be able to deploy those applications, make them available for other folks to use, and also if they were developing, could they have forums where they could share code or get questions answered, technical questions answered, to enable them to do that. So what we're standing up, and we've really just turned this capability on this month in terms of a broader rollout, is apps.nasa.gov. And so this will be a capability, app store for internally developed, deployed applications. By internally, I mean for the intent of consumption by or use of NASA, civil servants, or contractors. So you can go to apps.nasa.gov and see the applications that are deployed there. And I would encourage you to check that frequently. There will be a lot of changes that we hope to start rolling out in collaboration with some centers that were already on their way to having those deployed. So we're really excited about it, and hopefully this will provide a better opportunity for folks to gain access to these on a number of different platforms.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks, Neil. And you know, while we have Neil up here, I want to just throw a plug out for the work that they did on single sign-on for Fed Traveler. I think if you haven't used it yet, you need to. At the very least, you don't have to remember your username, and so you can go right into Fed Traveler. You still need your PIN in order to approve documents, et cetera, but it is a much improved experience. So thanks, Neil.
Okay, I think we have another question coming in from Marshall.
So how will the end user know who to call when they have a problem?
Yeah, well, that gets back to one number to call. It'll go to the Enterprise Service Desk, and the Enterprise Service Desk will route your call to, you know, whoever is the appropriate person to fix it. They're going to try to help you. At the very least, they'll triage and try to find out if it's a desktop issue or a network issue, application, et cetera, and they'll work with you to try to get that resolved and conduct any warm handoffs from their help desk to the Tier 2 help desk in order to you know, make sure that you get back up to speed quickly. So at your center, you know, depending on how your call tree goes, you know, you'll have probably something that leads you down the IT path, and then to get to the ESD, and then from there to get routed to the appropriate spot.
Okay, I think we have one more follow-up question from Marshall.
Question: can someone talk a little bit about the metric that you intend to measure, success in meeting the goals of I3P?
Yeah, well, there's a myriad of metrics, and you know, they go all the way down, you know, multiple levels, you know, down to, you know, availability of service, customer satisfaction, you know, time to return to service, and that all the way up to higher level things. So, I mean, we do have metrics. You know, someone working on the metrics with the Shared Services Center, and we'll have a dashboard on that. And, you know, there's not any one metric that's going to be tied to enhancement of the user experience. But, you know, there's customer satisfaction metrics all the way through, and you know, we've got some baselines there, and we'll be looking to make, you know, progress on those baselines. From a security perspective, you know, obviously, security is always hard to get meaningful metrics on. You know, you can always, you know, look at, you know, intrusions and you know, attacks and denial of service and those kind of things. But it's you know, that's probably going to be a little tougher for us to you know, gain some ground on understanding exactly where we are and whether we've made things safer, because, you know, it's such a dynamic environment, and the threat sources are always changing, and the vectors, et cetera. But we do have a fairly robust set of metrics, and, you know, they're tiered and geared towards answering that question, because obviously GAO and the IG and everybody's going to come in and ask us if we achieved our goals. So.
Okay. I think we have a question coming from headquarters.
Yes, I have a nuts and bolts question about scanning. Let me just explain that my office has 2 desktop scanners that we use for scanning key documents for the history office. Okay, but our office also uses the Xerox Work Center function for scanning at times for small documents. It does an OCR, and no one seems to be able to answer this question, but I think it's Konica is replacing these. Does that device scan an OCR, first of all? The problem with the Xerox Work Center also, I've heard complaints, is that when you try to scan and place a document on the glass, you have to re-enter your email address each time. So you get one-page PDFs each time. If you put it through the document feeder, it's okay. You know, you get multi-page. So there's some concern about, will this device be a step up, you know, to help us rather than spending time, you know, replacing sheets and so forth. And the other thing is our desktop scanners will no longer be on the Odin contract, although we purchased them. Will they disappear? Will they be taken away? Will we get service? Will we get support on those? And so it's, you know, we're trying to, and it also gives a better quality scan than the Xerox Work Center. We're hoping that the Konica will be a better quality image as well, so that we can use both.
Yeah, so John, I'm not sure if you can answer those kind of details or whether you want to defer to someone from HP.
So let me start off with saying that you mentioned 2 different kinds of scanners. You have your one that maybe is connected to your computer and you do scanning there, and that's fine. If that's an Odin-owned asset, then that's been purchased by, is going to be purchased by HP, so that's not going anywhere anytime soon. I already mentioned the MFD that we have down here on the floor, and the OCR that you're talking about is a very good question that I don't personally know the answer to. I don't know if any of our HP folks here know if the MFD can also do OCR with it. I'm just not sure about that. No? Yeah. And I don't think, I know that I helped with the contract, that I don't remember that little particular part being put in. But that is something we can look at for the future. You know, we're really, the way we wrote this contract, it's set up for innovation. We really wrote it in every aspect that we could think of. And, you know, we have a very good rep from HP here, Steve Vetter, who's in charge of their innovation area. So that's an area I'll talk to him about and see what we can do in the future.
Yeah, I think, you know, we got pretty much the whole HP team except for the person that knows about the MFDs and copiers. So we'll have to make sure, you know, we get with you personally because, you know, it sounds like you have a very specialized requirement that we need to make sure we hit.
Many other folks that they're hoping it's, you know, this is not just me and a couple people, that many people in the building use these to scan as attachments to email, and they like to have an OCR sometimes to keep the document.
Yeah, I mean, as we go through this, you know, as we find gaps, we're going to find them. You know, the intent here is not to make things go away or to make it so that you can't do your job. We're going to find a way to make it so that you can do your job. Okay.
Thank you very much. Okay, we have a couple of questions coming from Stennis and NSSC are teamed up together. So let's go to Stennis.
Thank you. First question is, can you describe the differences on the ACES contract between base services and the general services? Additionally, do both of those kinds of services go into effect at the same time, or are those on a different schedule?
Yeah, just so, John, if you can touch on that.
So what we've done is on our website that you'll see at the very end of this, the town hall, there's a website that you can go to, and in there you can grab or take a look at some facts sheets that we have, and it does a really good job of breaking it out. So base services are items like, they're enterprise type items. Your Nomad system, the email system, NCAD, that's Active Directory, Directory Service, instant messaging, IT security related management, two-factor token, you know, your RSA tokens, loaner pool management, and print queue infrastructure. Some of those general services that are out there are APC, which is the ACES product catalog, where you can go out and get little pieces and parts that you want to get for your machine, for your system. Maybe you want an external hard drive or an extra monitor or something like that. Other general services are temporary seats, the ACES Tier 2, Tier 3 service desk, the field support, and then there's something out there called developmental test labs. That's where any user in NASA can go to one of these labs, and it has the images of all these machines on it, all the different the seat types that are out there, the standard premium seat, and it has the Apple, it has Wintel, has all those different areas in it.
So John, base services then, all of those start on November 1st, right?
Correct. So for the Wave 1 centers, all the centers are going to all be able to make their phone calls in and get all their equipment taken care of. But base services also starts for all of NASA, because Nomad is used by all the centers, not just the Wave 1 centers, as an example.
Yeah, so HP would be taking over the management of the email, the NASA Active Directory, and those other services.
That's correct.
There, okay.
Okay.
Any follow-on?
No, not from Stennis.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. We do have another one from Stennis. Go ahead, Stennis.
We were wondering when software training would be made available for the various ACES softwares, like the operating systems or the productivity suites, and by what methods those courses would be made available.
Yeah, again, that's John.
So another one of the items that we have on the website is a ACES software training guide. There's lots of different software user guides that are already available that you can just go down and look at and open them up and look through them. There's also some Saturn courses out there. They're already out there. Getting started with Windows 7, since Windows 7 wasn't fully implemented across all of NASA, some people are going to be getting Windows 7 for the first time. So that might be something that you'd want to check out. So just go to your normal Saturn and look for that. There's Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook. There's a whole slew of them on here, and for the Macs too. Word for Mac 2011, getting started, and then also something that the HP folks are going to be doing at all the centers is lunch and learn, so that you can go and actually get that hands-on, real up-close, personal type of training and learn about one of the new systems. If that's a new system to you, you can get that kind of data you need.
Okay, thanks, John.
Anyone from HP want to expand on that, or? Okay, all right.
Okay, let's go to headquarters. We have another question from our center. Go ahead, headquarters.
Good afternoon. I was wondering if we could get clarification on I think it's a governance approval that happened yesterday on the CIO having funding decision-making authority for physical security and how that impacts the enterprise physical access control system that we use.
Yeah, actually, I'm not aware of that particular decision. So Linda Curitin, thank God, is in the audience.
So the decision, actually, I saw Rick Keegan come in, but Rick Keegan is the chair of the Mission Support Council. The Mission Support Council consists of myself, the CFO, Chris Calise, our safety and mission assurance head, Terry Alcott, and Woodrow Whitlow, the head of the Mission Support Directorate, chaired again, like I said, by Rick Keegan. And the decision that was made yesterday was not about control of funding. It was about the how decisions are made in 3 phases. The first phase is about business systems. To the extent that the Office of Physical Security is under the Mission Support Directorate, and they provide business solutions for the whole agency, then this new board, which is co-chaired by the Deputy CFO and the Deputy Associate Administrator of the Mission Support Directorate, and is supported by the CIO and others across the agency, So this new board would have the purview of strategy and direction for business systems, which include physical security. So it's a not control of budget, but it's influence. The control of the budget is under the Mission Support Directorate head, which is there. So he does control his budget, and he is a part of that governance structure. And that was what was decided yesterday.
Okay, thanks, Linda. We have two more questions coming from Johnson. Go ahead, Johnson.
Yes, this one has multiple parts to it. What happens when a printer or MFD reaches its maximum number of impressions for the month? Will printing stop? Will the printer still print but at an increased cost? What will be the increased cost and how will customers be charged?
Okay, again, that comes under end user services. So John, if you could
so
address that.
if a MFD goes over its limit, obviously there's some charges there, but it's not going to stop. The printer is going to keep, the MFD is going to keep functioning. We'll just keep track of that. And we do have something in the contract where if you go over this month, it's watched to make sure for the following month. And if it goes over again, then obviously something has to be done. There's also some pooling that is done, at some of the higher bands. So depending on the type of the MFD that you get.
So John, this is a case, if I remember correctly, where the copiers are networked, and so they're being watched and monitored constantly as far as the number of impressions. So it's not like we get too far down the road and folks are suddenly surprised with some kind of a bill. I imagine that once they hit that number of impressions, there's going to be some intervention to just make sure folks are aware of what's going on and as you said, watching it, right?
Yes, and if you go over your band, several months in a row, then it'll be suggested that you up the band because there's several bands that you can, different amount of impressions that you can do. As for cost, the organization actually pays for the MFD. It's a seat, just like any of the other seats. So the organization would then have to pay that extra cost.
Okay, and that's only the first part, I guess, of the question.
Yeah, there's another question.
Yeah.
How do we get seats delivered to people who are remotely located or are not at a center?
John?
That's a good question. We've been working with the HP folks. They're very well aware that we have seats up in New York at the GIS, the GISS facility, and many other facilities, White Sands and other places like that. And in those cases, they're working to either ship those out and have somebody out there to meet with them, or they're working it in other ways. But they are making sure that all our users out there do get their machines. If you have a machine now, you're going to have it in the future. And over time, we're expecting to pick up even more of those seats because this contract was written to be able to do way more than we've been able to do in the past. You're able to get the kind of seats that you want. So, I have full confidence HP is going to get the machine out to wherever that site is.
Yeah, and I think beyond that, HP has a presence in almost every state of the country of some form or function, and they have endeavored. If you're on travel to, Idaho, and you have a problem with your computer, they'll find a way to get somebody out to you to fix your computer. So I think they're very committed to customer service, and I think they have the infrastructure to support that no matter where we are. Maybe even Hawaii, I don't know. That would be nice. I'd like to take that trip just to find out.
I'll go out there. I'll take care of that one.
Okay.
Okay. We have two questions coming from Goddard. Go ahead, Goddard.
This question is for John. The premise of the contract was everyone was going to receive new seats. And of course, last week we reached an agreement for HP to acquire all of them seats. That means now we're doing a refresh schedule. So the question for you, and some users might want to get a new seat, even though they are not due for refresh yet. will they be able to do so?
All right, Doctor, I know we are negotiating right now and are very close to being able to finish up with what's going on with the Odin seats.
So is he asking about an early refresh?
I think that's what he's asking. Early refresh. Okay. So for an early refresh, let's say that you've received a computer, you've had it 6 months, and there's something else out there that you'd like, or it's not working for you, and you need to refresh that early. Just like under the Odin contract, you're able to do that. But of course, there's a early refresh calculator that'll be able to tell you how much you're gonna need to pay to get it done early, because it's really your seats for a 3-year period, and in year 2 you want to refresh 1 year early. You're going to need to pay that difference, and then you'll be able to get your new seat early.
Yeah. So if it winds up being out of cycle, then you have to pay some kind of a early refresh fee.
That's correct.
But it can be done.
Okay, I think we have another question from Goddard.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
So the other questions, in view of the new agreement with HP and LM, do you plan to change your communication approach so that you can manage customer expectation, given the fact that we've been giving them different information throughout the process?
Yeah, I'll take that. We certainly do. Right now, as I said earlier, we're working together, NASA and HP, on what the refresh and deployment schedule will be. How soon and how long it's going to take, and as soon as we reach agreement on that, we're going to get that out to folks. But until we have something definite to say, I think we're just better off not saying anything other than, come November 1st, out of Goddard, your Wave 1 Center, folks are going to continue to utilize the equipment that they have, the Odin equipment, which has been bought by HP, and HP will be providing that service. And as soon as we have good information to get out, Jean-Marie, we will get that out to you guys.
Okay. We have 2 questions coming in from Langley. Go ahead, Langley.
Yes. I was wondering if none of the machines listed actually meet your specific software requirements. What are your options?
So Rob, you want to take that? No. Okay. All right, John.
All right. So if the standard premium seat, the modified, which is just a little variation of that one where, let's say you want a 2-hour return to service, that's a modifiable seat. Or if the T seat, which is a thin client, or the build seat, which you can build the type of machine that you want, if none of those work for you, then there's also the X build. And it's not a seat, but it's an ability for you to go out and get a computer, a computer that you want to get. Maybe there's something brand new out on the market that does exactly, has all the specs for exactly what you want to do on some of your research or some of those kind of things that you're doing for your job. The X build, not a seat, gives you that ability. You can go out and just purchase that. Now, when you do that, you also remember there's a sysadmin that needs to go with it. So the contract also has that ability. If you're buying 100 of those or 200 of those, then it makes a lot of sense to get a sysadmin support to be able to make sure you're doing all the patching and keeping the security settings up. If you're buying one, that makes it a little more difficult. It still has to fall under some security plan to make sure that it gets its updates and it's following all the standards.
I think there's another question from Langley.
I've actually got 2 sorts of unrelated questions. The first is, I know that there's a lot of infrastructure that's required to go along with the thin client seats, and it'll be a while before that comes in, but when can we actually start seeing thin client machines on the field? And then my second question is, now with the new NICS contract, are we going to have any chance of getting upgraded performance between centers? Because we regularly send very large files off to NAS that can take a day or two to transfer and then have to get them back. And it would be really nice if we had a bit more performance going out there. Thank you.
So let me take the first one. The T seat, the thin client seat, which is just if you're not familiar with it, it's just a monitor, a mouse, and a keyboard, and a network appliance where it goes back to a server, is being worked right now. The HP folks are working very hard on it. We have an IPT set up, an integrated process team that is working to get that on board. I know that there's been a lot of work on it so far, but it's not ready as you indicated. I got Noel Salvanero here in the audience, and I think it might be a good idea to just get a quick update on where we are with the T seat.
Thank you. As John indicated, we are still certifying the infrastructure and also performing the necessary testing for compliance with the security plan. And we anticipate that the T seats will be available for order. They're available for order now, and that we'll be seeing those deploying into the field in the November timeframe.
Thanks, Noel.
Yeah, so the second part of the question, Tom, I don't know if you can address, any work that's planned or in progress on the network side and especially as transfer of data between centers? Sure.
We don't have any plan. I mean, as we transition each of the centers in the WAN, which already has been transferred over to NICS, we're taking over the assets in place, so the same capabilities that are there. What I can tell you, though, is when you start talking about transfer between centers and having difficulty or needing some additional support, keep in mind now that NICS will be running the network from end to end. So from endpoint to endpoint, through the LANs, through the firewalls, and through all the WAN infrastructure, you have a single contractor now that is responsible for that end-to-end data flow. And so for specific instances where we need more capability to get that done, we can go straight to SAIC or have them to write up a proposal. What would it take to go do that, to provide that end-to-end connectivity? And I think it's going to be much improved from what we've had in the past, where we had to go to a LAN, two different LANs, maybe two different firewall vendors, as well as the WAN. So I think in the future it would be much easier to make that happen.
And I think built into the NICS contract is some innovation capability or service, right? And so this might be an area where we utilize that. I don't know whether it's dollars or effort or how that's structured, but anyhow, I mean, we could point folks to these types of problems and they could come up with solutions.
And Gary's right. It was specifically built into the contract for constant innovation on the network side from the vendor and as well as on the civil servant side, working hand in hand with the vendor to evolve the network and to make sure that we are really meeting the needs of the customers now and in the future. So yeah, we want to keep tied into that and make sure that we do that.
Yeah, I mean, what's important to note is, as you said, SAIC is going to be coming in and taking the environment over, as it is, and then, progressively be going through and looking at the choke points and figuring out ways to improve the network to meet the mission requirements.
Right.
Okay, I think we have a question coming in from Glenn.
Is there a planned deployment of the Office Suite 2010 so that everyone is working on the same level of Office, and also IE to the latest version? The reason I ask is because I have a project that has dependencies on Project Professional 2010.
Yeah, John, can you
Sure.
address that?
So Office 2010 is going to be on the new build. You asked about the latest IE, and what that takes a lot of testing, and IE and all the other browsers change so frequently or have upgrades so frequently that we're always lagging a little bit behind on the testing, because we do want to get it in and do some good testing with all the different apps that we have out there, make sure that it works. We've had to slow down on a few of the upgrades in the past because there's been some incompatibility with some of our apps, and the apps needed to catch up. And so all that's been actually working pretty good. Will you have the absolute latest of the IE as of tomorrow or as of November 1st? No, we were usually one back. And, I'm starting to see some of the, like Firefox and others that are, they're changing every 3 months. So, we're really struggling to keep up with that and do the testing.
So in this case, we have the gold build, which will be deployed on all of the new seats. And that's in concert with the NASA standard 2804, right? So that's the Office 2010. And then Internet Explorer, I think, is, I guess the gold build has version 7 right now?
Yeah.
Or is it 8?
It's 8, version 8 right now. 9 is out too, but we're still doing some testing.
Okay. So that's what will be deployed now. Of course, we have, a lot of existing seats that don't have, that level of software. So it's going to take us a little while to get to the point where everybody is on the same operating system, same Office suite, et cetera.
That's true.
Gary, can I add? Part of the dilemma we face is that we're kind of having to mediate with also our commercial off-the-shelf vendors, where we've gone to a COTS model for our enterprise applications. We don't develop our own like we used to in the mainframe days. So we're watching the Firefox and the Internet Explorers, as John said. They're more agile than they used to be. They're moving more quickly. They're out trying to outflank each other. On the other side of that spectrum, we've got our commercial off-the-shelf vendors, SAPs, CompuSearches, others, Fed Travelers, that we're trying to bring along as well. So it's a real dilemma, and especially as the speed, the throughput on these browser versions has been picking up as of late. It's tougher for us to make sure that we keep the group together, keep the enterprise applications together, and interoperable with each other. So I will say, to reinforce what John said, it's becoming a tougher job, and especially when the users want to proceed more quickly as well. So just to kind of let you know what's going on behind the scenes and trying to make this all work together and try to be more responsive is, in the same time, a tough one.
Yeah, and the folks out at Glenn actually are pretty heavily involved in helping us with some of that testing. The ETADS, Emerging Technology and Desktop Standards Group, led by Tony Faka. I think they do a good job of trying to balance out, how fast we move versus, what it breaks when we get there. And it's not, it's not simple. But it's a delicate dance that we've been doing for several years now.
We update our standards twice a year, and just of late, I'm having to even do them every 3 months. I can't wait 6 months to get the next standard out, unfortunately, with how quick everything's moving.
Okay, I think we have another question coming from JSC.
Okay, thank you. With the changes to NICs from Odin, how does the local area network managed and charged for ads or moves? Was LAN A, B, etc. under Odin? What is it now?
Yeah, this is actually a great question for Tom or some of his support team here.
Can't John answer this question? That is a good question, and I know Gary touched on it before about the nomenclature. And yes, JSC being an Odin center, we did have NADs and LAN As and LAN Bs and LAN Cs. With NICs, because we're managing it more as an agency infrastructure, you'll order a network seat, and that's actually not a seat but a network drop. And whatever you have connected to it, it's a single network drop. It's a single order service that you would order. So that's getting kind of pared down all to one single service. You also won't see a charge for on that particular item for putting in a new drop or even moving a drop from one place to another. That's built in sort of the base that each center is paying for their NIC services overall. So it's kind of a single bill for the center for network services for the year. For moves up to a certain point, that's certainly covered. For large moves, we would again go through an IUP similar to what we would do with Odin. And again, we would look to see where that falls into what the center has already projected for the year and for NICS services. And so it's simplified quite a bit from what we had been before.
Yeah, and that's a case where, SAIC is going to have a presence at JSC. They're there to, install network connections and fix things. And as long as they don't have to go out and hire somebody else to do this, it's just no additional charge. Now, if they have to come in and stand up a whole new infrastructure of switches and routers, et cetera, to get out there, then, we'll get a price for that, and we'll have to work that through the, a build process. But normal things that you're used to doing under Odin, I think are just going to be part of the center charges for network services.
Okay, Gary, I think we have a question from Stennis. I believe that's it then. I'm sorry. All of the centers going once? Twice? I think we're sold, everybody. Okay. Well, Gary, would you like to add any closing remarks?
I want to thank folks for attending here at headquarters. It's encouraging to see that people actually show up for work on Fridays. We had some concern about doing it, whether there would be folks, but I'm glad to see that there was a good turnout. I know that there's going to be a follow-on event here, and I hope the same is true at many of the other centers for you to get specifics about your particular center and location. And certainly want to thank the my team here and our vendor partners for showing up and supporting us. And by all means, go to our website for any questions that you have, or call me direct. We'll find an answer.
Okay.
Thanks, Eldora.
You're welcome. I think we can put up our website in case you don't know it. It is inside NASA insidenasa.nasa.gov/OCIO/I3P. Also, we do have a mailbox that we have set up. It's called aski3p@nasa.gov, and your questions and answers will be displayed on our website. If you have any coworkers who missed today's event, we will have a recorded version available on Monday, so you can check our website for that. Several of the centers are having some follow-on discussions, so please stay tuned for that. That concludes our event here at NASA headquarters. Thank you, everyone, for participating in today's event. Have a great day.